TNT Radio, tu radio en internet.
So I'm from TNT, Spain. I don't know if you know the media. I think a partner of mine interviewed you several years ago. So you are something like that. You are a real character for our media.
That one. Huh? Okay.
Yeah. So first of all, I'm going to do a very brief introduction, and then we start with the interview if it's okay. Okay. Triumph of Death, the band led by Tom Gabriel Fischer from CELTIC FROST, TRYPTIKON, has announced their live album Resurrection of the Flesh to recover the music of Hellhammer. It will be released on November the 10th, 2023 from Noise BMG. We speak with Tom to find out more about this exciting debut. Hi Tom, how are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm fine. It's a pleasure to meet with you and a pleasure to interview you about this amazing new project. First of all, I wanted to explain that this live album, Resurrection of the Flesh, it's a recovery of several live shows. For example, Hell's Hero Festival in Houston in the States, Dark Eastern Metal Meeting in Munich, and SWR Barrosella's Metal Fest in Portugal. So I wanted to ask you, why did you choose these three shows to make up the compilation?
Because they were the best recordings we had. We recorded several concerts during the past few years. And we came to the conclusion that the Barrosella's concert was not the best sound quality, but the best concert quality. There was just a certain spark about it. There was a certain fire and wildness about it. So we decided to take the Barrosella's show as the main body of the live album. And there was, from some of the other concerts that we recorded, there was one or two songs that were also very fiery, so we decided to add those two, and then that was from Houston and from Munich. But it's not unusual. Most live albums in our scene consist of songs taken from various cities. The important thing is that you preserve a certain heaviness, a certain attitude, a certain atmosphere between the audience and the band, and that's why you just select the songs that correspond to that.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool, yeah. It is clear that the main objective is to bring Hellhammer's music to the stage. But why now, and why was important to you to bring that music to the stages?
It was actually always important. Even in the 1980s, Celtic Frost played Hellhammer songs quite often during concerts. And then in the late 1990s, when I was part of the industrial project, The Pulling Sun, we also covered a Hellhammer song. And when we brought back Celtic Frost in 2001, we actually rehearsed Hellhammer songs to play on the last tour, on the Monotheist tour, but they didn't sound quite right because the drummer we had at the time didn't really click with this material. But then with TRYPTIKON, I played Hellhammer songs again. So this has been a feature of my entire musical career, because Hellhammer is, of course, the music that started it all for me. It's the basis. And even though those songs are not very sophisticated, they're relatively simple and primitive, but they carry a lot of energy, and we all like that.
Mm-hmm. It is clear the audience love you, or the band, because in some of the tracks of the Resurrection of the Fest, we hear the audience calling you warrior in this album. So I think maybe this is the connection with the audience that has encouraged you to carry out this project as well.
Well, I also love the audience. I owe the audience so much. They have made it possible for me to be a musician for 42 years, and that's not something I take for granted. It's something I'm infinitely grateful for. And I'm glad we captured some of these moments on the live album. And of course, it's important to have things like that on a live album. The live album is supposed to be a memorial of what we are doing right now for many, many years to come. And it's very nice to have not just the band, but also the audience members on the live album. They make it all possible.
Yeah. And it's very sensitive, I think, when you call in the audience, calling you. And I think it's more of the interesting things of a live album, no? Because the connection is there and you can live it when listen to the album.
Of course, a live album lives of the reaction of the audience, absolutely, and what the reaction does to the band.
Yeah. I want you, Tom, to maybe analyze how Hellhammer influences the new extreme genres of metal, such as death metal or black metal, mostly black metal, maybe. How was this influence notorious in the future genres of metal?
I can't really answer that. It would be so arrogant.
Yeah.
To talk about any influence of mine, if there indeed is one. This is something you have to answer.
Probably.
I'm just a musician, and I do what is inside of me, and I think that was mostly, especially the case in Hellhammer, because there was no record contract or pressure to uphold a career or anything like that. Hellhammer was very pure, was very honest, and we simply played the music that was inside of us. But once we played that music and recorded it on demos, it went beyond our control, you know. Then the people took this music and they did whatever they did with it. Some of them hated it back then. Later on, I guess they no longer hated it, but you know, I had no influence on this.
Uh-huh.
And if we were indeed later important for other bands, that's a huge honor for me. But you know, it's not something it's not my place to talk about that at all. It would be utterly preposterous for me to.
Okay. That was a tricky question, maybe. But maybe what you said about the purity of the sound maybe was a key thing in underground music in those years, maybe. Just say it is absolutely impossible to reform a band too closely linked to such a specific and unique era of time when asked about the return of Hellhammer. But tell me about that time and those 2 years in which the band developed its work.
Well, it was a very special time on many levels. It was a very special time in our scene globally because it was a revolution of heavy metal music with the new wave of British heavy metal and the emerging American thrash metal wave, all of which completely changed our scene and is the roots of the metal scene we know today. Then it was a special scene in the world because it was the Cold War. We grew up in a world where every day we thought there could be nuclear war between the Soviet Union and the United States. This was a very, very real threat, and Switzerland was prepared for nuclear war. There was a bunker underneath every house and so on.
Oh my God, yeah.
Then, in addition, it was a very special time in Switzerland because the rich establishment refused to do anything for the young people, and eventually the young people went to the streets in the early 1980s. And the establishment sent the police against the young people. There was demonstrations everywhere and destruction and injured people just because the young people wanted to have, for example, a youth center in Zurich.
Mm-hmm.
And the government and the people in charge reacted with violence, and we grew up with that. And finally, it was a special time in our lives because the main members of Hellhammer all had very problematic youth. And Hellhammer was really the first step for us to step out of that situation and create our own world where we ourselves have at least a measure of control and can determine our own destiny. So these are all things that make it very special to have been in Hellhammer, but also make it impossible to reform the band 40 years later. It's just not the same. It would be a lie.
Yeah, absolutely. The social context is the key thing for a band, obviously. And this project, Resurrection of the Flesh, was produced by you, Tom Gabriel Warrior, and Santura of TRYPTIKON, your band. So it's truly a personal project in all aspects. Is that right?
Absolutely. And Santura is, of course, a collaborator for many, many years. He was already a guitar player in Celtic Frost. And we did all the TRYPTIKON albums together at his own studio in Germany, and also we did Hellhammer reissues together. We did Celtic Frost reissues together. So he's not only a co-musician, he's also a friend and a very, very good producer. And I love working with him. So, of course, that makes it very personal. And I know when I go to him, he will do the right thing. He understands me. I understand him. It's perfect.
Yeah, that's the perfect connection for such a project. Yeah. Why is the band Triumph of Death named after one of the Hellhammer's most infamous songs?
Well, of course, I wanted to have a connection to Hellhammer. It is not a reformed Hellhammer, as we just said, but it's very much an honest tribute to Hellhammer's music. And I personally think the song Triumph of Death probably represents Hellhammer most. It was one of our most important songs when we were still in Hellhammer. It's based on the painting The Triumph of Death by Bruegel. And I always thought that song really signified Hellhammer. So when I was thinking about the name for my tribute band, Triumph of Death became very obvious.
Yeah. Apart from the name, the Triumph of Death brings the same raw, premonitory, and heavy spirit that Hellhammer. How do you live that after leaving Hellhammer in the original years? How are you living the music of Hellhammer again on stage? I mean, something maybe has changed, but something remained there.
Well, what has changed is that I'm much older now.
Okay, maybe it is translated into more experience. I don't know. We always have a evoluted point of view of everything.
Of course. Well, of course, I'm a much more experienced musician now. After 40 years later, at least I hope so. But I try to play the songs of Hellhammer with Triumph of Death exactly the way Hellhammer played it during rehearsal. I have a very clear memory of the Hellhammer time, and I remember how he played these songs. And I really want to reproduce them on stage the way Hellhammer would have produced them on stage. And I think we took great care to do this authentically and respectfully. So we didn't really change anything. We didn't really invent anything, even though, of course, we're different people and I'm older and this, but I think it comes very close to what Hellhammer was.
That's really good. About the album, what was the criteria for choosing the songs?
Well, I just wanted to represent the set list that we are playing right now. The album represents exactly a concert from A to C that we are playing right now. It's supposed to be basically like a photo of what we're doing right now. We will probably change some of the songs now that they have been recorded. We'll probably add some Hellhammer songs we haven't played yet when we go on stage. But we simply wanted to have a record of what we have been doing these past few years. So yes, it is. It's an authentic concert.
Okay. Speaking about the songs, for example, while listening the album, one of the songs I like more, or maybe I were most connected with, was Blood Insanity, because it has an impressive bass and thunderous riffs, guitars. I don't know. What do you think about Blood Insanity?
Well, it is quite
another tricky question.
It's quite a radical song. It's probably my favorite song
Oh, me
of the
too.
early Hellhammer times, because I really like Steve Warrior's vocals on the original, and the lyrics are, of course, we were very young at the time, and that song was written at the very beginning of Hellhammer when we were really brand new musicians, and we tried to find out how are you a musician, how do you do this and everything. And we listened to a lot of Venom, we listened to a lot of the Iron Maiden album Killers, and I think in the lyrics you can hear parts of Killers and parts of Venom. Because we were too young, we didn't speak English so well yet, and we didn't really. We were so young, we didn't have our own stories. So I think the early Hellhammer is a lot of copying, and I think you can hear that in that song. But I still love it.
Yeah, I love it too as well. That's yeah. I was just to comment it with you. You are going to release the album in several formats. For example, the Lucidi Media Book, Double Gatefold LP on black vinyl, and a Super Deluxe double red vinyl. But I wanted to ask you, why does the Super Deluxe edition include as a bonus song Decapitator in Houston?
Mm-hmm. Well, we just wanted to make a special package. I'm a record collector myself. I'm a lifelong fan of music. I have a record collection in which every album has a story for me, and so I enjoy beautiful records. I love when a band and the record company take care to release a beautiful record for my money as a fan.
Yeah.
I hate it. There's many record companies who are very cheap. They release an album, there's nothing in it, not even the lyrics, no photo, no nothing. I don't like that. And we wanted to give people the chance to buy whatever they want. You know, you can have the normal album, you can have the CD, but if you would like to have a collector's item, there's also a collector's item that is filled with nice things. Because I'm a collector myself. It's very simple. I simply like a beautiful product, you know.
Yeah, and because, in my opinion, is yeah, because there's something more personal there, and there is a connection between music and the artwork and nice things. It is
Absolutely.
something more. And
Absolutely.
speaking about the artistic part, tell me about the cover of the album of Resurrection of the Flesh, because it's something like an octopus with a skull, or tell us about the meaning of that cover.
Well, the painting is called Death Has Arrows, and it's created by my friend, the Italian artist Daniele Valeriani, who had already worked with TRYPTIKON for the Requiem album.
Mm-hmm.
He's a very talented artist in my view, and his trademark is that he doesn't work. His paintings don't look like they're modern or new. He paints in a style like you saw it in the past centuries, and I really like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we wanted to have a cover that looks like Hellhammer, but also is slightly different because it's the band Triumph of Death. It's a tribute band, and I think Death Has Arrows really is the perfect bridge between Hellhammer and Triumph of Death. It's very old school, but also something different.
Yeah, because it's similar to one of the covers of Hellhammer, but it has 19th century style as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's very similar to those pictures related with imperialism and the politics in the 19th century. Yeah. I like it a lot, and I wanted to ask you about that because there were many things connected there. Yeah.
That's actually a very interesting observation. And you know that's why I love Daniele's art, because it is like he comes from a different century,
Yeah.
and not many artists work like this anymore, and I really appreciate this, that we can still see this nowadays.
Yeah. When I saw it, I remember like the octopus, like the spread of influentials, or it's a thing of mine. But yeah, I like it a lot because I remember about politics in the 19th century, which I love. I love a lot. So that
Right.
was the reason. um, A great truth is that Hellhammer were a fundamental band in the underground music of the 80s, but from today's point of view, how could you define Hellhammer music?
Like I said earlier, I think the main defining point about Hellhammer was that it was very pure.
Mm-hmm.
Because we were completely underground, and because we only got a record deal at the very end of Hellhammer's existence, we didn't have to promote anything. We didn't have to be concerned about our credibility or record sales or a tour. We simply did what was inside of us. And that makes it a very, for all its faults, and there's a lot of faults in Hellhammer, a lot of flaws, but for all its flaws, it makes it very authentic. It's very pure proto-extreme metal, proto-black metal, and it also has a little bit of punk in it. And it's much more honest than most bands can be, including mine, when you are in the middle of the music industry and you have to promote things and so on and so on. Helena was just about the music.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's really cool. And on a personal and artistic level, for you, Tom, what has Triumph of Death given to you?
A lot of pleasure, a lot of fun. I've had my ups and downs with Hellhammer over the years, but I have to say, playing Hellhammer's music on stage is so much fun. And also, the people in Triumph of Death, we're all very close, and we have a really good relationship with each other. And it's also very much fun playing with them across the globe. And of course, it's a huge honor to be invited to Australia and America and so on and so on with this music that 40 years ago people laughed about, and now I can play as a headliner everywhere. It blows my mind, and I'm very grateful that people are there to listen to it, and then people give us this platform.
Yeah. And do you think maybe Hellhammers have received something from Triumph of Death?
I hope so. I tend to think if the Hellhammer members would have known about this in 1982 to 1984, they would have been very proud, very happy. So I hope so, yeah.
Yeah, so finally it's being an exchange, from Hellhammer to Triumph of Death and vice versa.
Very much. It's a strange exchange over 4 decades. It's an exchange that transcends time. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. What about tours, shows, festival? What are your plans?
Well, we're seeing now what the world will do with this live album, and then maybe nobody will book us again. I don't know. We'll see. We have some concert plans for next year, but I think a lot of it also depends on how people receive this live album, what they think of it.
Okay. Would you like to choose a song? It's a tradition of mine, my interviews, to ask the person to choose a song from the album they are releasing to listen just after the interview. Maybe tell me why specifically that song.
Well, we both talked about Blood Insanity, which I really like, but I think Messiah is probably a better choice right now, because Messiah is a song that we also played in Celtic Frost as a cover version, and we also played it in TRYPTIKON as a cover version. And it's a song really that I've been playing from the very beginning of my career up to now, where I'm a 60-year-old musician after 42 years. So Messiah is one of my earliest songs that transcended all of this time and is still with me.
Mm-hmm. And I think the Resurrection of the Flesh have a excellent end with Triumph of Death, the name of the band, the name of one of the most famous songs of Hellhammer. So I think it was intentional.
Of course. What can you play after Triumph of Death? It would be senseless to try to play a normal song after that little theater play that is Triumph of Death. So yeah, of course it has to be at the end. I think it's a perfect ending too. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Okay, well, that's all from my part. Thank you very much for your time. Good luck with the promotion and with the future live shows. Just thanks you. And okay, you always have your house here in TNT Radio Rock in Spain.
Thank you very, very much, Victoria.
Thank you.
Very, very appreciated. And you know, I owe it all to people like you and to the audience. Thank you for that.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye.
TNT Radio. Tu radio en Internet.